The book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, is a story that has impacted countless people worldwide. It is often known as the book of beginnings and sets the foundation for the entire Bible. Genesis is a tale of the universe, humanity, and the divine, tracing the origins of everything that exists. The word Genesis comes from the Greek language and means original beginning. It is a story of the birth of the world. At the story's start, the world was dark and empty, with no discernible shape or form. It was a vast expanse of nothingness, shrouded in darkness. Yet the divine spoke from this space, giving life to everything with words that reverberated through the emptiness like thunder in the night. As a result of these words, the universe was created, a tapestry of stars woven across the heavens, each star a testament to the boundless creativity of the Creator. The book of Genesis is a sacred text that millions have revered over the centuries. To truly understand its significance, one must delve into its ancient origins, tracing its roots back to a time before history began. The story is a journey of the world when the world was young and the hearts of men were as unformed as clay. It is a story that has stood the test of time, captivating the imaginations of generations, and will continue to do so for many more to come. In the beginning, when the world will be a formless void, an all-encompassing darkness will surround everything on its path. A dense darkness seemed to stretch on infinitely, an empty expanse, without form or shape. Yet within this darkness was a stirring divine presence waiting to bring forth light and life. On the first day of creation, God, the ultimate creator, spoke into the darkness with a voice that echoed throughout the emptiness. His words resonated like a thunderous crash through the void. "Let there be light." At once there was light. It burst forth in a blaze of radiance, penetrating through the darkness and brightening the vast expanse before him. This light was not just a physical description, but a symbol of God's power and presence, manifesting God's will to bring order to the chaos. It was a light that banished the shadows, dispelling the darkness that had encircled the void for eternity. And God saw that the light was good. He separated the light from the darkness, calling the light day and the darkness night. On the second day of creation, God explored the vast expanse of water that covered the earth and spoke into the emptiness. "Let there be a space to separate the waters of the heavens from the waters of the earth." His voice resounded through the void, and with a flicker of his divine will, the firmament of the sky was born. With his authority, God divided the waters below the expanse from the waters above it. The waters below gave rise to the seas, oceans, and rivers, while the waters above formed a great canopy, like a vast ocean above the sky. And so it was that on the second day of creation, God gazed upon his work and saw that it was good. The separation of the waters marked another milestone in the unfolding of his magnificent creation, paving the way for the wonders that were yet to come. As God explored his creation, he beheld its beauty and marveled at his power and glory. The separation of the waters was a testament to his might and sovereignty, a reminder that he alone is the creator of all things. God spoke on the third day of creation, and the earth was transformed. The once formless void was now a masterpiece of wonder. He commanded the waters under the heavens to gather into one place, and the dry land appeared. Seeing mountains, valleys, hills, and plains appear out of nowhere was breathtaking. Every inch of the land was a work of art, from the rolling hills to the highest peaks. It was a world that was hard to imagine without dry land. The earth was now teeming with life. He filled the land with plants, and the earth bloomed with color and life. The plants were a sight, from tiny seedlings to towering trees. God gave them the ability to make seeds, and each seed could grow into a brand new plant, just like the one that made it. It was a miracle of life that continues to this present day. Imagine the scene as God looked upon his creation. The vibrant colors of the flowers, the towering trees, and the bustling life of the earth were a testament to his boundless creativity. Every detail was carefully crafted, and every organism was perfectly placed to create a symphony of life reflected through the ages. God knew it was good, and his heart overflowed with joy at the sight of his handiwork. As we witness this majestic display each day, we too are blessed by the boundless creativity of God. On the fourth day of creation, God created the world's most wondrous heavenly bodies, the sun, moon, and stars. These heavenly bodies are God's most inspiring creations and play a vital role in sustaining life on earth. God commanded, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and days and years, and let them be lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth." And so it was that the two great lights were made, the sun, the more excellent light to rule the day, and the moon, the lesser light to rule the night, along with the stars. With divine precision, God set these heavenly bodies in their courses to guide and govern the rhythms of time. He scattered the stars across the heavens, each twinkling with unique brilliance. The world worthed in the soft, silvery glow of the moon and the stars as the day drew to a close, and the creatures of the earth settled into slumber. They knew that they were watched over and protected by the ever-watchful eye of their God. It's mind-blowing to think about how everything works in perfect harmony and how life as we know it wouldn't even exist without the sun, moon, and stars. These heavenly bodies remain a beacon of hope and a testament to God's eternal glory. And God saw that it was good. On the fifth day of creation, the commanding voice of God resounded through the vast expanse of the heavens and the earth. His words were imbued with power and purpose as he declared, "Let the waters overflow with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens." In the blink of an eye, the waters swarmed with life. From the tiniest minnow to the colossal whale, every nook and cranny of the ocean was filled with creatures of every imaginable shape and size. Schools of fish darted through the water, their iridescent scales glistening in the sunlight. Strange and marvelous creatures, unseen by human eyes, romped in the depths, their movements a testament to God's unfathomable creativity and power. In the sky, the beating of wings and the calls of birds awakened the earth. Eagles soared high above the mountains, piercing eyes scanning the earth. Flocks of geese flew in perfect formation, their honking cries reverberating across the land. Hummingbirds hovered around brightly colored flowers, their delicate wings a blur of motion. Amid this abundant life, God's love and care for his creation were evident. He provided for every creature, giving them food and a place to call home. From the ocean's depths to the highest reaches of the sky, every living thing found its place in the intricate web of life that God had woven. As fish swam and birds flew, the world beat with the sights and sounds of God's handiwork. As the sun set on the fifth day of creation, the earth was alive with the glory of God's magnificence. From the depths of the ocean to the heights of the sky, his handiwork was on display for all to see. And as the creatures of the sea and the birds of the air went about their lives, they testified to the goodness and greatness of their Creator. On the sixth day of creation, God brought the most magnificent creatures to life, from wild animals to farm animals, and even creepy crawlies that move along the ground. Every animal was unique and special. But God had one last surprise. He decided to create humans in his image. This meant that humans were unique and had a special relationship with God. Adam, the first human, was responsible for caring for the garden. As he reviewed the animals, he noticed that each had a mate, and God saw that it was not good for man to be alone. So he created Eve, the perfect match for Adam, from his rib. Together they walked hand in hand through the Garden of Eden, tending to the plants and animals and reveling in the beauty and abundance of the earth. God created Adam and Eve to be unique to him and made them in his image. Like them, you are unique to God and created in his image. We have a unique purpose in a special relationship with God that is unlike anyone else's. The story of God resting on the seventh day after creating the world is fascinating. According to the biblical story found in Genesis chapter 2, God completed all the work of creation in 6 days and saw that everything he had made was good. On the seventh day, he paused from his work and rested, setting a pattern for the 7-day week that is still followed today. It is important to note that while God is omnipotent and eternal, he rested not because he was tired, but as a symbol of completion and satisfaction. His rest on the seventh day is a model for humanity, teaching the importance of rest and observing the Sabbath. By setting aside time to rest, reflect, and appreciate the goodness of God's creation, one enters into a rhythm of work and rest that mirrors the order of God. God's rest on the seventh day also emphasizes the sacredness of time. By making the seventh day a day of rest, God set it apart from the other days of the week and made it special. This invites us to pause, reflect on His creation's beauty, and fully express His love for us. As the sun sets on the seventh day, one is reminded of God's faithful, generous, and loving nature. It is a special moment in the rhythm of creation, a chance to reflect on and appreciate everything made. As one goes through life, the echo of God's rest can still be heard, calling us to find rest and renewal in His presence. Imagine a world where the very act of speaking could bring life into existence. The sun, mountains, oceans, and every living creature were created with a simple command. But then the Creator decided to fashion something truly unique, a being that would bear His image, a being that would steward the world with love and care. And how did He do it? Using the dust of the earth, molded and shaped with delicate precision into the form of a man. Adam wondered, opening his eyes for the first time to behold his Maker. The breath of God, the very breath that had brought the universe into being, now filled his lungs, bringing him to life. And with that life came a purpose, to care for the garden that God had entrusted to him, to tend to every tree, flower, and creature with wisdom and love. As Adam walked through the garden, he knew he had been chosen for a unique role that would shape the world around him. He felt a deep sense of responsibility, knowing he had been given a task requiring all his skill and care. Adam marveled at the world around him, exploring the gardens of Eden and naming the creatures that roamed the land, basking in the beauty of his surroundings. Yet amid this paradise, he felt a longing deep within his soul, a yearning for companionship that could not be satisfied by the wonders of the earth. Seeing Adam's loneliness, God knew it was not good for the man to be alone. He decided to make a suitable companion for Adam, and so with purpose and intention, God set out to fashion a partner for Adam who would share in his joys and sorrows, triumphs and challenges. God caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep, and as he slumbered, the Creator reached into his side, gently drawing forth a rib from which to form Adam's companion. With divine skill, God shaped the rib into a woman, crafting her in His image, yet distinct and unique from Adam. When Adam awoke, he saw the most wondrous sight before him, Eve, the completion of his being and the missing piece of his soul. In that garden, he knew that she was meant for him. Adam knew this was now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, and she would be called woman because she was taken out of man. And thus the first marriage was formed, and a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. They were both naked, the man and his wife Eve, and they were not ashamed. This began an incredible journey for Adam and Eve, the first man and woman. Adam recognized her as his companion. Together they walked hand in hand through the garden. God watched over them with fulfillment, knowing that His creation was now whole. The union of two souls created a new spark, igniting a fire of love that would spread throughout the generations. It was a moment of pure bliss, an expression of divine love that changed the world forever. The serpent soon disrupted Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. It tempted Eve with the forbidden fruit, questioning God's command and suggesting that eating it would make her wise like God. But Eve responded to the serpent, "Ye may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden. God has commanded, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die." The serpent said unto her, "Woman, ye shall not surely die." Enthralled by the serpent's words and the allure of wisdom, Eve succumbed to temptation and ate the fruit. She offered it to Adam, who also ate it, knowingly disobeying God's commandment. This act of disobedience, known as the original sin, marked the moment of humanity's fall from grace. As a consequence of their disobedience, Adam and Eve experienced shame and tried to hide from God, who came looking for them in the garden. When confronted, Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the serpent, shifting responsibility for their actions. Angered by their disobedience, God pronounced curses upon them and the serpent. To Adam, God said that he would have to toil and labor for his sustenance, and the ground would yield thorns and thistles. To Eve, God declared pain in childbirth and subordination to her husband. And to the serpent, God promised enmity between it and humanity, culminating in its eventual defeat. God called for Adam and Eve, and two trembling figures emerged from their hiding place. Adam and Eve cringed in fear, knowing that the all-knowing God had uncovered their disobedience. Their voices quivered with dread as they confessed their mistake and begged for mercy. But God's heavy heart was not easily swayed. He announced his judgment, and Eve's punishment was especially severe. He will significantly multiply her sorrow and conception. In pain, she shall bring forth children. The weight of her punishment settled upon her like a heavy cloak, and she knew that from that moment on, childbirth would never be the same. Eve's dream of becoming a mother was shattered by the shadow of pain and suffering that now loomed over it. As time passed, her belly grew more extensive, and fear gripped her heart as the time to give birth drew near. But she was determined to endure the pain and bring her child into the world. Finally, the day arrived, and Eve's labor began. Waves of pain washed over her, each one more excruciating than the last. She cried out in anguish, her voice echoing through the garden. Adam stood by her side, his face etched with worry and fear. But despite the pain, Eve refused to give up. She pushed onward, determined to bring her child into the world with every ounce of her being. Hour after hour she labored, her strength waning with each passing moment. And then finally, it was over. Eve collapsed in exhaustion, her body trembling with relief. In her arms lay her newborn child, a tiny bundle of joy amidst the sea of pain and suffering. Tears of joy streamed down her face as she cradled her baby close, feeling the warmth of their tiny body against her own. In that moment, Eve understood the true meaning of sacrifice and love. She knew that with every birth came the promise of new life and new beginnings. The legacy of her pain lived on through the ages, a reminder of the consequences of disobedience and the enduring power of love. But amidst the sorrow, there was always hope, for Eve knew the promise of a bright new day was just around the corner, waiting to be discovered. God also punished Adam by cursing the ground, making it difficult for him to grow food. Adam had never worked hard before and struggled to till the soil, plant seeds, and wait for the crops to grow. But he didn't give up. He worked tirelessly, sweating and toiling daily to provide for himself and his family. Despite the hardships, Adam found purpose and meaning in his labor, knowing it resulted from disobedience to God. With God's help, the crops began to grow, and Adam and Eve learned to appreciate the value of hard work. They battled weeds, pests, and unpredictable weather to harvest food to eat and passed down the knowledge of farming and agriculture to future generations. The story of Adam and Eve teaches us that life can be challenging, but with faith, determination, and hard work, we can overcome those challenges and find joy and fulfillment in our work. It reminds us that hard work is the key to success and that we can achieve anything if we put our minds to it. So let's take inspiration from Adam and Eve's journey and work hard to make our dreams a reality. The story of Adam and Eve is a severe tale passed down through generations. It is a story of resilience, love, and hope, as well as a cautionary tale about the consequences of disobedience and the corrupting influence of sin. The story takes us back to the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve lived in blissful harmony with nature and enjoyed the presence of God. They were not yet mortal, and their spirits were housed in physical bodies made from the dust of the earth. They had both physical and spiritual life, but had not yet chosen between good and evil. However, their lives changed forever when they disobeyed God's command and ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This disobedience brought sin and death into the world, and Adam and Eve were banished from the Garden of Eden, where they would experience suffering, hardship, and death. Yet even in their fallen state, God provided skin garments to clothe Adam and Eve, symbolizing his care and provision for them. He also promised them a Savior who would one day come to set them free. Despite their trials and tribulations, Adam and Eve refused to give up and fought to survive. They created a family, passing their wisdom and knowledge to their children and grandchildren, and finding joy in life's simple pleasures. However, their legacy was not only one of resilience, but also a warning about the consequences of disobedience. Their story highlights the vulnerability of human nature and the importance of exercising free will responsibly. Over time, God's plan of redemption unfolded, and He sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to save humanity from sin's grip. Through His death and resurrection, we found forgiveness and restoration, and the promise of eternal life has been regained for all who believe. The story of Adam and Eve teaches us important lessons about perseverance, obedience, and redemption. It shows us that God's love and forgiveness know no bounds, even in our darkest moments. We should never forget the sacrificial love that brought us closer to our Creator and paved the way for our redemption. In this same book of Genesis, long ago, at the dawn of humanity, two brothers named Cain and Abel lived. They were the sons of Adam and Eve, the first humans created by God, and they grew up in the beautiful Garden of Eden. Cain, the eldest of the two, was a strong, hard-working man with a determined spirit. On the other hand, Abel was the younger brother who was gentle and kind, with a love for tending to the flocks of sheep. As they grew up, Cain and Abel learned the ways of their parents in the land. Cain became a tiller of the soil, working the ground with his hands to produce crops. On the other hand, Abel became a shepherd, caring for the animals and offering sacrifices to God from his flock. One day, Cain and Abel were to present offerings to God. Cain gathered the fruits of his labor from the fields, while Abel selected the finest of his flock, the choicest lambs, to offer as a sacrifice. They approached the altar, feeling the presence of God surrounding them. As they laid their offerings on the altar, a bright fire burned, sending tendrils of smoke upward to the sky. Cain was confident that his sacrifice would please the Lord, as it resulted from his sweat and toil. However, as the smoke cleared, a frown creased the brow of the Almighty, and His voice thundered from above, shaking the earth beneath their feet. The Lord addressed Cain, asking him why his face was downcast and why his offering was not accepted. Cain's heart sank like a stone in his chest as he struggled to find the right words to explain his offering. He told the Lord that he had offered the best of his harvest, the fruit of his labor, and wondered why it had been rejected. The Lord's gaze bore into Cain's soul, piercing him with its intensity. He explained that he desired not the fruit of Cain's labor, but the sincerity of his heart. The Lord told Cain that his offering was tainted by pride and self-righteousness. He sought to please the Lord with his deeds, but neglected the purity of his intentions. Cain realized the error of his ways and fell to his knees before the Lord. Tears welled in his eyes, choked with emotion. He begged the Lord to forgive him and promised to seek righteousness from the depths of his heart rather than through his works. The Lord forgave Cain, and with a heavy heart, Cain rose from the ground, his eyes downcast with shame. Abel stood silently beside Cain, his heart heavy with sorrow for his brother. Together they returned to their fields and flocks, filled with thoughts of repentance and renewal. Ultimately, it was not the sacrifices of flesh and blood that pleased the Lord, but the sacrifices of a contrite and humble spirit. The flame of redemption was kindled in Cain's heart, burning bright with the promise of forgiveness and grace. Cain's jealousy grew. Abel presented his finest lamb, which was received with divine approval, while Cain's offering of fruits and vegetables was left untouched by God's favor. The sight of Abel's success instilled an intense jealousy in Cain's heart, which burned like a fire. His envy and anger consumed Cain, and he mumbled through clenched teeth, "Why does God favor Abel and not me?" His fist trembled with fury, and he couldn't contain his emotions. Abel, sensing his brother's turmoil, approached him with compassion in his eyes. "Brother, why do you look so troubled? Have I done something to offend you?" Cain turned his gaze to Abel, and his eyes were ablaze with jealousy. "It is not you who have offended me, but God Himself. Why does He accept your offerings and reject mine? Am I not also His creation, worthy of His favor?" Abel's heart ached for his brother, but he knew not how to ease Cain's burden. "Perhaps God sees the sincerity of your heart, Cain," he offered gently. "Have faith, and He will surely accept your offerings in His time." However, Cain's heart was hardened by envy, and he couldn't hear Abel's words of comfort and reason. Cain lured Abel into the fields under the pretense of brotherly bonding. They walked among the crops, and Cain's resentment boiled over into rage. Without warning, he struck Abel down, his hands stained with the blood of his brother. Abel fell to the ground, lifeless, his innocent soul taken by the hand of jealousy. Cain was struck by the magnitude of what he had done. He realized the gravity of his actions. Shock and horror washed over him as he beheld the lifeless form of his brother lying before him. His hands still clenched tightly around the bloodied rock, trembling with guilt and remorse. Tears streamed down Cain's face as he cried in anguish, "What have I done? My brother slain by my hand." His soul was rent asunder by the weight of his sin, and he knew he could never undo the deed he had committed. God, who sees and knows all, was not fooled by Cain's deceit. He called out to Cain, asking where his brother Abel was. Trembling with fear, Cain responded, "I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper?" God's voice thundered in reply, condemning Cain for his wicked deed. "What have you done? Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand." With tears streaming down his face, Cain pleaded for mercy, but God's judgment was swift and just. He banished Cain from the land of his birth, forcing him to wander the earth as a fugitive and a vagabond. "You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth," God declared, "and whoever finds you will kill you." Alone and broken, Cain roamed the wilderness, tormented by the weight of his sin and the memory of his brother's blood. Yet even in his darkest hour, God showed Cain mercy, placing a mark upon him to protect him from those who sought his life. And so Cain journeyed into the unknown, a solitary figure marked by shame and sorrow. But though he was cast out from the presence of God and the company of his fellow man, the memory of his brother Abel haunted him still, a reminder of the consequences of envy and the destructive power of jealousy. Thus ends the tragic tale of Cain and Abel, a story of brotherly love turned to bitter strife, jealousy, and murder, and the enduring consequences of sin. May we learn from their example and strive to walk in the ways of righteousness so that we may avoid the same fate and find favor in the eyes of the Lord. Cain and Abel serve as a cautionary reminder of the destructive power of jealousy and envy and the tragic consequences that can arise from giving in to such base emotions. It is a story of brotherhood betrayed, innocence lost, and the enduring struggle between good and evil that has echoed through the ages since the dawn of creation. In conclusion, the incredible creation story begins with the Almighty God, who created with just a single word. On the first day, God created light, which illuminated the darkness. On the second day, He made the sky, which stretched infinitely above the earth. On the third day, God created the world and filled it with trees, plants, and flowers that were lush and green. On the fourth day, He adorned the sky with the sun, moon, and stars, which shone brightly in the heavens. On the fifth day, God filled the seas with creatures and the skies with birds that flew freely above the earth. On the sixth day, He created animals, man and woman, in His image and likeness. Adam and Eve lived in the beautiful Garden of Eden, where they tended to the trees of life and knowledge. However, the serpent tempted them, causing them to eat from the forbidden tree, which led to their banishment from Eden. Despite this, God promised that the woman's offspring would bring redemption to a fallen world. As we reflect on this incredible story, let's remember that grace guides us forward, and our past mistakes do not define us. Let's also remember the story of Cain and Abel, which teaches us about the consequences of envy and anger. Let us continue to play our part in God's grand narrative of love and redemption, and strive to be the best versions of ourselves. Thank you for reading. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and leaving a comment below with your thoughts or questions.